Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at Morphy's with a giant Bowie knife of a revolver. This is a revolver made by one Joseph-Célestin Dumonthier in Paris, sometime between, well, probably in the latter half of the 1800s. Dumonthier was a gunsmith who specialized in exactly this sort of thing, and he was pretty prolific. He got his first patent in 1840 in France for a knife with guns on it. One of the more typical patterns that you will actually see of this sort of thing. There are a couple of standard varieties. And what Dumonthier started with was basically a big old hunting dagger like that had a pair of single-shot percussion cap gun barrels on either side of the blade. I've actually covered a gun like that here on the channel before. I'll link to it in the description. He then expanded from that into other sorts of things. You want knife with guns? Cool. You want gun with knife? We can do that. You want pistol cane? We can put a gun in a cane for you. He did do other like regular firearms as well. He has patents on things like underhammer pinfire pistols, but Dumonthier really became known for doing knife gun and gun knife combinations, which are pretty cool. So let's take a closer look at this. This is a big piece. The blade here is almost 8.5 inches long. The gun element of it is a 6-shot 11mm pinfire revolver. The mechanism here is pretty much standard Lefaucheux pinfire system, which was one of the very common early cartridges. Before we had center fire everywhere, pinfire for a short time, was the dominant style of self-contained cartridge. And we'll take a look at the ammunition in just a moment. But first, the gun itself is single action or double action. Go ahead and cock that for the moment. We're used to, at least I'm used to, loading gates typically pivoting like down this way or up that way. This one actually rotates backwards towards you and then up, and it lifts a little safety block. So when this is up, we've got a little bar there that the hammer rests on, so the hammer won't interfere with the pins, and you can go ahead and cycle this around and load the cylinder up. The barrel comes out to here, and you can see there's a little step in the barrel, so you've got this sort of swooshy, this is not a muzzle brake. Black powder pistol cartridge like this does not need a muzzle brake, especially with this much mass hanging off the front end of it. But you've got a nice little step there so that the bullet doesn't actually hit the blade element. And it looks good, you know, it's got some aesthetic design to it. We have an actual fixed trigger and trigger guard. You will often find these, as you often find many Lefaucheux style pinfire revolvers, you'll often find them with a folding trigger and no trigger guard. Personally, I much prefer the whole trigger guard. I think it looks better, and they also tend to be much more durable systems. Those folding trigger guns just much more often are broken or wobbly. There are only a couple of markings on here. On the left side of the barrel, we have Dumonthier Brevet SGDG, which means patented, sans garantie du gouvernement, without guarantee of the government. So the government patents it and says, yes, this is a patented system, but that doesn't mean that we are going to guarantee that it works, just that it's been patented. We've got a serial number on the right side of the barrel. Dumonthier was a serious businessman. He was in business for 40 plus years making these things. From 1850 to 1890, he was working in Paris. Before that, starting about 1840, he worked in an area called Houdan, about 30 miles west of Paris. But I do not doubt that that serial number is consecutive and legitimate. It wouldn't be specifically for guns of this pattern. I'm sure it is for Dumonthier guns in general, but yeah, he and his operation were making quite a lot of guns. And then one last marking here, we have a French proof mark on the cylinder, an E, boxed E with a little lion's head. That's a proof mark that was used between 1810 and 1879, so that kind of puts an end date on when this might have been made. Dumonthier was in business until, I think, 1890 or so. but this would have been made much earlier, at least substantially earlier in his career. It's interesting to find a French proof mark on these. Much more common to find Lefaucheux pattern revolvers proofed in Belgium. Even if they were being sold by French companies, it was very common to have them manufactured inexpensively in Liège, in Belgium, imported into France in maybe a completely finished or maybe a partially finished condition to then be finished up and marked and retailed in France. We do have the sort of typical rear sight for a Lefaucheux pistol, which is just sort of a notch in the hammer that you can see when the hammer's cocked. However, Dumonthier didn't put any front sight on here, or at least there isn't one on here now. It doesn't look like one was ever on there and removed or broken. I think it just didn't come with a front sight. I suppose the idea is if you miss them, well, you've got a giant Bowie knife blade that you can use as a backup. The ammunition we have here is a tin box that originally held 50 metallic pinfire cartridges for Lefaucheux revolvers, 12 millimeter in diameter, made by Ely. Ely is still around making ammunition. They're particularly known for really good Target 22 ammunition, but the pinfire system, like I said, was an early style of self-contained cartridge where you've got your lead bullet, you've got a black powder charge in there, and then you actually have the primer sitting right over here on the inside of the case. Ooh, and I'm getting distracted here. Neat, we have an Ely London head stamp on there. Anyway, the primer is down here, and when you fire this, the hammer hits that pin, drives it across the back of the cartridge into the primer. It's on the inside, detonates the primer, which detonates the powder charge, which propels the bullet. So when we load this in the chamber there, you can see that that pin sticks up through the slot. It protrudes enough that the hammer can hit it and fire the cartridge. The plus side to this, the benefit, is that these are basically waterproof, they're self-contained, they're fairly durable. The downside is, well, you've got that pin sticking out the side of the case. So having magazine feed systems for pinfire cartridges is really impractical. You can do revolvers, and you'll see them like this, and that they were really quite common for a fairly short period of time. You can also do single barrel and double barrel break action guns. You'll find those pistols, rifles, shotguns, a wide variety of single and double barrel pinfire guns. But any sort of mechanical loading system just isn't going to work with this. One of the things I like about this is it actually feels pretty solid. I've handled a bunch of the little tiny sort of pocket knife with a 5mm dinky little revolver and the Apache like little wavy bladed knife that barely effective for opening letters connected to a pinfire pepper box kind of thing. And they're all really flimsy. They feel really fragile. This thing is stout. Like, this is solid. I think you could actually stab someone with this and not have it break off in your hand. And it's a solid revolver as well. A 12mm pinfire may not be much by today's standards, but I certainly don't want to get shot with it. Very cool to actually have some of the ammunition with this one as well, because you don't often see original pinfire ammunition. So big thanks to Morphe's for giving me the opportunity to film this for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.